Welcome to the Real News Network and our continuing series of interviews with Tom Ferguson on the economy. Thanks, Tom. So how important is the issue of wages? As we know, wages have been more or less...
Don't make me laugh. We know wages are really crucial for any ordinary person's everything.
That we understand.
Yeah.
How important of the issue is the fact that wages haven't moved much, certainly in relationship to productivity, for like more than 30 years? How much is that a root cause of the current crisis? And if so, are any of the current measures from the Obama administration addressing it?
Well, I actually don't think it's much of a... What I'd say is you have a bad condition, but this crisis didn't come out of wage inadequacy. I mean, one wants to say it's the sort of the exact opposite of the old Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, when bad things happen to good people, when good things happen to bad people. I mean, this was a financial crisis brought on by a lack of regulation. It's not even a global imbalances problem. That fed into the lack of regulation. I mean, the stuff they were selling in the core economy of the world turned out to be rotten. Everybody thought this thing would end when some large dollar holder in Asia or in the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, thought that they would just sort of get out of dollars or something like that. None of that happened. This was a domestically caused crisis, and it was started, as far as I can tell, in the financial sector. And otherwise, I suspect it would still be going. They'd still be rolling up debt. They'd still be loaning, more credit cards to folks. I mean, all I can say is, it's a problem. In the background was always the fact that the population was not gaining much out of all the vast increases in productivity, that they were just making the super rich, becoming ever richer. But, I could not tell you, I don't know of any theory that would say that caused this financial. I mean, that looks to me like really financial regulation was. I mean, they blew themselves down. In other words, now the question is, how can you fix this? Since this is the thing that's crucial for the ordinary person. I mean, on this, I certainly think that should be the chief issue in American politics. And I have to say, the two things you got to do right off is you've got to get to sort of reasonable budget. You need to run. You should be running a budget deficit if you've got unemployment, and it should be going into surplus when you're at full employment. And that's sort of just a straight traditional Keynesian position. Strikes me as exactly right. They got to do that first. It would be nice if they would fix exchange rate misalignment problems that encourage folks to just shift stuff out of the United States. I mean, I actually favor a sort of world full employment with the exchange rates in equilibrium.
How do you get to full employment if you don't have more real purchasing power?
Well, I don't have any problem with the use of the state to do it. I mean,
just simply print money and hire people.
No, you can always. You can always, if you don't like just that, you can always just do the old full employment the balanced budget multiplier. Remember, where you just tax exactly equivalent to the amount you want to spend, but you get a multiplier out of that, and so more people. I mean, national income actually goes up, and the budget deficit does not increase at all. You can just print money, and I mean, I don't have a problem with printing money as long as you're not at full employment. I mean, once you get to full employment, that becomes stupid, or you get near it. You need to run. All I'm basically really saying is you got to have a fiscal and a monetary policy aiming at full employment.
But isn't part of the issue that real purchasing power requires more of wealth to be distributed amongst people who work, and the wages need to be more realistically tied to productivity?
Well,
that if you have so much capital in so few hands, they keep coming up with all these machinations of ways to earn on their capital, which in the final analysis comes back to whether people can buy stuff or not.
Look, this underconsumptionist approach. I appreciate the spirit. It's not clear to me that I would like to see the economic model that sort of shows you clearly that goes from, if you like, limited wage power to economic collapse. I mean, that my sense is that an awful lot of gaps in the last 20 years got made over by extensions of credit, and just purchasing power went upstairs. It might not break down. I would. That's not an issue I'd claim to have a good fix on. What I do think it's pretty. There's never mind whether the thing has to collapse. I mean, why not just say, hey, look, we don't want an economy like that, and just aim the policies away from it. I mean, I mean, if the question boils down to what can you do about wages, and I repeat, the first thing you got to do is you got to run a fiscal and monetary policy that will allow you to get to full employment. I also think you got to deal with exchange rate misalignment. Then I would certainly think about wage subsidies, and above all, you got to take a large, you've got to redo the federal budget so that it stops being largely, if you'll allow the sort of subsidies to the rich. I mean, much of the defense budget is spent on stuff that just, it may be of interest to some multinational overseas. It's not any vital American interest. And a huge chunk of what the state in the United States actually spends its money on, is just stuff that is just support for upper income groups. If you could retarget state spending to a reasonably efficient medical care delivery system, if you could sort of fix schools and fund them adequately, if you could sort of make credit available to sort of ordinary people as they try to sort of either start businesses or even just go to college, things like that, you do a tremendous amount to reorient income flows in the United States over time too. So I think you could do a lot to sort of drive up, and you can encourage unionization. The card check business ought to just pass. It just.
This is the Employee Free Choice Act.
Yeah, the Employee Free Choice Act. Yeah, those policies would all tend to support ordinary people's wages. And if you redid the tax system so that there's a huge amount of, the Social Security tax falls, hugely on ordinary people and largely leaves the rich off. There's a cap on it right now. I forget what it's about, 115,000, something like that, after they don't pay on it. That's absurd. If you redid the tax system, you would find wages and also the share, seeing the wage problem as part of a question about the government budget too, you'd make the lives of an awful lot of Americans much easier.
Well, in the next segment of our interview, let's get into the issue of politics and finance and why some of these measures you're suggesting aren't being done.
Yeah.
Please join us for the next segment of our interview with Tom Ferguson. There are times when reality just asserts itself. In spite of the haze created by television news and entertainment, sometimes crisis rips a tear in the fabric of myth and propaganda. Now a profound economic crisis has ripped asunder the American dream itself. Millions of people losing jobs and homes. They lack proper health care and any real sense of security. Since 2001, workers' wages have fallen or remained stagnant, even though worker productivity has risen almost 33%. By 2006, the top 1% of households were receiving 23% of all pre-tax income, more than double what it was in the 1970s. It's the greatest concentration of income since 1928. As unemployment rises, we need to know why this crisis is happening and what we can do to defend ourselves. Why are wages so low? Why is the society so laden with debt? Is it in ordinary Americans' interest to have $1 trillion military budget to project power across the globe? Corporate television news won't ask these questions, let alone try to find answers. Only a truly independent news network can tackle these questions with courage and with ordinary people's interests in mind. We need a news network that's independent of corporations, governments, and political parties. We need the real news. But there won't be a real news network unless we raise substantial funds right away. The current financial crisis has hit our funding hard. Together, we do have the power to turn it around. There are already hundreds of thousands of people watching the real news every month. If everyone pitches in, we can build an internet and cable television network that will change the face of media forever. You can organize house parties, talk to friends at school and at work, send email blasts and spread the word. Distribute this video to everyone you know. Pick up the phone and call a few friends and suggest they visit therealnews.com. Invest just 10 minutes a day to ask friends and colleagues to join the campaign to create a truly independent source of internet and television news. Together, we can build this network. Just 50,000 people at $10 a month gets us to our first level of sustainability. You can help us reach this goal, and when we do, we'll move to television in millions of homes across North America. Help us reach an audience in the millions. Please contribute generously. Spread the word. Let's make the Real News television network a reality.
Your tax-deductible donation makes it possible. Please contribute at therealnews.com.